How's it going, groupies, roadies, and fans? This is Randy, the REI Rockstar, coming to you with another weekly REI Lick. In this particular episode, we'll be going over not one, not two, but over 18 laser-targeted motivated seller negotiation questions. This is going to be great. If you don't already know about me, just visit the reirockstar.com. You can read about me in the About Me section and even find some great resources. And if you'd like to sign up for mentoring, that's there too. You can also get a copy of all this free stuff that I've been giving out over the last year and a half just by joining our newsletter. And you'll also be notified as they come out. So let's get into these questions. So, in this industry, we have motivated sellers coming from all of our marketing efforts, and following these questions, and in no particular order, is going to help you get the most out of each individual conversation. So the first level here is just some open-ended icebreakers that can help you get to know that person and build rapport. And they are, number one, tell me a little bit about the home. Open-ended question, right? It's going to get that other party talking. You're going to learn not only about the house, of course, but it's just natural for us as human beings to find out a little bit more about each other, where we work at and what part of town were we originally from and all that great stuff. Another open-ended question, it's super important, is who lives there now, which of course is related to the occupancy. We want to know as investors if somebody lives there, and if so, is that a tenant, or perhaps is it owner occupied, or is it vacant? Even better, right? That's motivated. Historical past questions. This builds it paints a picture of what brought them up to this phone call, or whatever generated the contact. So you can ask questions like, Mr. Seller, Mrs. Seller, when did you buy the home? Okay. This also helps you structure deals, because as we know, in some cases, some things don't work if they bought the house too recently, and it doesn't really make sense to do. Like a short sale, for example. A lot of lenders don't like to see somebody losing a house 6 months or 12 months after they bought it. It just doesn't make sense that they can no longer afford the property. So another great one is, well, how much did you pay? Okay. This is related to negotiation, because if we can find out how much they paid, we can make an estimate, an educated estimate as to what they may owe today. Another one, has the property been listed in the last 12 months? If so, for what price? There you go. So this may give you an indication as to what they might sell it for today. And then if they give you some cockamamie number, you can kind of question that if they're going 100 grand above what they just asked for it a year ago. Better have a lot of improvements. Now the next one is, has the property been appraised in the last 12 months? This is very common if there's been a refinance or something like that. And again, it just leads towards the history of the property. Were they trying to sell it? Were they trying to do a loan modification, or whatever it may be? The next step, conditional questions. So you have how much in repairs are needed. This is very important in structuring what you're going to offer to the seller. You need to find out what the repairs are. Okay? And it's also related to what eventually the person is going to, this seller is going to be asking for the sales price, right? So if there's a lot of repairs, you can expect there to be some kind of discount to you, the investor. Next, number 8, what's the overall condition of X? So if you ask an open-ended question like, in a conditional question like, what's the overall condition of the flooring? It'll help you underwrite the file a little bit. What's the paint like on the outside, or is the porch in need of any repair? Overall condition questions are awesome. Number 9, has anything been fully replaced in the last 12 months? Okay, this will give you kind of an indication of what kind of seller you're dealing with. Some cases, sellers, for whatever the reason, haven't been able to keep up the overall condition of the property, and yet in other cases, sellers are very adamant about the pride of home ownership, and they'll go ahead and replace the AC unit, and not just the important things, but other things with respect to making the house look nice overall, like the flooring, or perhaps even a new vanity, or they redid the kitchen, or new bathrooms a year ago. And it'll also help you kind of gauge how offensive you're going to be with them when you make that offer. The next thing is timing. This is great. This is a little bit more advanced. You want to ask questions like, how much do you need to net, or how much do you need to walk away with when we close? Okay, this does kind of two things. This helps you get an exact idea of what they're expecting. You can kind of get in their head and figure out what they're expecting and what they need at close. But it also helps you kind of, again, structure that deal and find out, am I going to go lease option owner finance with this? If they're only wanting a couple $1,000s and they owe about what the home is worth, and it makes sense to do a wrap, owner finance, lease option, that question's awesome for that. The next one, 11, how soon do you need us to close? Huge motivational question here. It helps you negotiate with the seller. You understand that if they said as soon as possible, you can step in and make it happen, right? Values based. All right, so the main reason I put this out here, guys, is a lot of people, once they finally get over the hump of talking to sellers and being nervous and all that stuff. I was lucky enough to be a professional headset wearer for a number of years and talk to thousands of people a month across the United States about their credit cards and whatever financial questions they might have had as a financial advisor. But the main reason I did this video is because you get those people who just don't tell you what they want for the property, and you and them will have this dance sort of that goes back and forth on, what do you want to sell it for? Well, I just wanted to see what you're going to offer me, and it's really difficult sometimes to gauge, are they a tire kicker or are they really just not wanting to show their cards? And these value-based questions and the next questions moving forward help you get those answers, sometimes very directly and sometimes indirectly, but either way you'll win. So this question is, what do you think the property would be worth if it was completely fixed up? And I love this question because what it forces that seller to do is come to terms with what number they have in their head without revealing that number to you. So say, for example, they knew the property was worth maybe 80 in today's market, but fully fixed up it was worth 120. It'd be a hard conversation to have once you finally ask them what's their asking price, and they told you fully fixed up it was worth 100, and yet their asking price is 150. You see that? So it just forces them to come to terms into reality of what the property's really worth, what they're really feeling, the number behind the number. Okay? Another good one. What do you think the property's worth today? Okay? So again, you're not asking them, what do you want to sell it for? Or what's your offering price? You're just saying, what's the property worth today? I mean, the neighborhood probably better than I do. I'll have my realtor or some professional pull some comparable sales in the next couple days and get back to you. But what do you think the property's worth today? Okay. And you know what? A lot of times there's some branching questions that come from that, including how did you come to that number? For example, you'll have somebody say, well, the neighbor's house over here sold for this, and I think my house is nicer. And that's some really good nuggets, some takeaways, okay? So you can gauge where they got this data from to show you how serious they are, or how, if they're just kind of making up a number out of nowhere. So, and then from that, another branch question I actually included in this is that, guys, as an investor, you have a lot of opportunities to structure deals in a lot of different ways. So when somebody answers a question as to what they believe the home is worth, you can come right in with an extra little question and find out what they owe on the property by saying something as simple as, is that about what you still owe? Okay? Is that about what you owe still? When they say, hey, I was thinking probably worth 100 grand today. Really? Yeah, 100 grand. You said you bought it 10 years ago. Is that about what you owe still? Or that is awesome. Then once you find out what they owe, it opens up a whole other area where you can do owner finance and lease options and contract for deed and all kinds of stuff. The next ones are hypothetical, guys. This is number 14. If we can close quick and pay all closing costs, settlement, and transfer fees, what's the least amount you'll take? If we can take care of all those extra things and just get a net amount to you, what's the least we can take if we can close this sometime next week at X title company? When you speak confidently and you give them in a situation where you're helping them and you're on their side, they're going to come off that number, okay? Here's another one. If we can get you full retail price, could you sell on owner finance terms? Again, in this conversation, you don't get to choose all the time how you structure a deal. I always like to say the numbers get to choose. Sometimes the numbers get to choose how you buy, sometimes the numbers get to choose how you sell, and sometimes both. So 15 is important because you're asking them, look, you said it's worth 110 and fully fixed up 150. If I can get you that full retail price, 110, and close in the next 2 weeks, could you sell on terms? An owner finance is something we do all the time. If I got you the 110 you needed, would that work? And then they'll always ask, well, what's the terms? And you can say, well, something simple, 5 years. We'll give you a couple thousand at closing. Yes, I understand that you have to move quickly. You found a new job. This is probably going to be your best bet since you owe about what it's worth. You see that? So you're still making money on deals that otherwise you would throw away. Finally, you have the direct questions. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are just a lot more direct than perhaps even I am. Okay? I'm definitely serious. I'm assertive, but I'm not too direct when I need to be. So, and I know there's a lot of you out there that aren't, right? You like to kind of beat around the bush, and you don't want to be pushy with people. Believe me, I understand that. There's the customer service side to that. So 16, 17, 18 are just a little bit more direct. If you want to cut to the chase, if you have somebody who perhaps is from back east or something, they're a little bit more direct too, go ahead and match them up. Mr. Seller, sounds like you need to get rid of the property. If you had to list this, let's say you were forced to list it. I know you said you wanted to get rid of it quickly, but if you had to list it and it was on the market, you know, the traditional way, what's a fair and acceptable retail offer that you would consider from like a retail buyer? I mean, what amount could a retail buyer come to you with, close in the next 4 months, and you'd be happy and satisfied with that? Boom. That's another way to get a number out of these people. Again, guys, these sellers will squirm a lot. Sometimes they just, you know, they just don't want to tell you what they're looking for. They feel like they're going to take advantage of. And believe me, I understand that. And we're not in this industry to do that. But it's very important that when you do business with somebody, that you get to know them, that you like them, and therefore you trust them. And you can only do that by having these kind of conversations. The next one's a little similar, but you can see that it's sort of the opposite. We're not asking, Mr. Seller, XYZ on a retail. We're going to ask about a cash offer. Okay, and I like to follow that up right after the listed question. So, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you know what? It sounds like, you know, if you had to list it, you'd sell it for 110. You know, let's imagine I came with cash, right? And we close and we pay all the closing costs. What's a fair and acceptable cash offer you'd consider? You know, assuming it 110 was your retail, what's your cash offer sales price? Okay, you just gave them these questions do so much because it's like you're giving them an education and getting your answers at the same time. All right, and you're painting this picture and you're really coming to the table and negotiating back and forth. And what's great and magical about this is they might not even understand what's going on, but they really like what you're saying, believe me. Okay, so they're not going to know that, you know, how targeted these are, and that, you know, I've spent years putting these together and collecting them and training not only my students but my employees and stuff. They're just going to think you're having a conversation with them, okay? And feel free, you know, I try to make these a little bit more layman and not too professional. Like I used to have these with the word appraisal and stuff like that. People don't talk like that. People just want to know how much, you know, when can you close? Simple human speech patterns in talking, okay? All right, so then the final one is the sales price flexible? And that one is something you can put in when you're talking direct with somebody is, well, what's your asking price? And as soon as they say it, is that flexible at all? Is the sales price flexible? These questions are going to help you get out there, build rapport with sellers, and get the information you need to make a fair and concise offer. There's one terrible thing, guys, that can happen in conversations with sellers, and that is whether you get a contract or not, or whether you feel like they're motivated or not, is probably one of the worst things to get a deal and not know why. Okay, so these kind of questions are related to that. They're going to help you understand the client, the seller, who they are, what's important to them, what their needs are, and how to match up the best solution. Okay, if you want to download or copy these, there should be a link under the video, or go ahead and visit the site. It's the reirockstar.com. Join right here the newsletter, and I'll send you great advice and tips every week, usually on Sundays, as soon as I can. Thank you for joining us on this quick training. I'm Randy, the REI Rockstar, signing out. God bless.